Hey, I'm James Alden Lawrence, and today my new EP, Mahogany Eyes, is released. And so to celebrate that, I wanted to make this video and talk a little bit about the songs, the instruments, the other musicians, everything to do with this EP. So I hope you enjoy it. And I will never let you drown. So the first song on the EP is called Drown, and Drown's an interesting one because it's not really folk rock, but it's got elements of folk and of rock. So I don't know exactly what you want to call that. But it mainly hinges around the acoustic guitar as an instrument, and this particular lyrical metaphor of sort of being on a ship, being on the sea. And I'm not really going to go into it too much deeper than that because I kind of want you to be able to think about what that means. I guess one thing I will say is that the verses and the bridge have a different subject being spoken to. The person who the lyrics are spoken to is different to that of the choruses. But I'll let you go from there. It's kind of an interesting one because it's got a bridge, but then it's also got this kind of vocal electric guitar solo build up until the final chorus. And so I'm really, really happy with that electric guitar solo. And I think it builds up to that final chorus really well. And the final chorus, I think, really hits quite well. I guess that's mostly what I have to say about the first song. And I hope you enjoy the first song. So the second song on the EP is called Mahogany Eyes, and it's also the title track of the EP, as you've probably noticed. And this song, I chose to make it the title track because it is a really important song to me. I wrote this for someone who I really admire, and I actually never got to play it to them. So I guess in the production of this, getting it from just, chords and vocals to the final product, it was really important to me to make it as beautiful as I possibly could, to try and get the feel of that very first listen. This song is also the reason that I met my buddy Nate Kelms, who I'll talk about a little bit later. Basically, I put a demo version of Mahogany Eyes on an online forum where a bunch of people were sharing around songs that they'd been working on. And he sent me a message saying, hey, I don't know if it's where you're thinking of going with it, but I play violin, and do you want me to record some violin for that song? And obviously I leapt upon that opportunity. And I think that violin is probably one of the very strong aspects which makes this song special in how I hear it. And I also think Teagan Simpson's backing vocals, particularly where they enter towards the end of the second verse, are another aspect that makes this song or the production very special, and what I was referring to earlier about trying to make it as though it's like the first time listening, and it's that specialness of a live performance. So this is, as I said, a very special song, but it's also my favourite song that I've written, and I've written probably half a dozen or more songs since then, so I'm pretty happy about that. Yeah, I hope you enjoy this one. I really mean that. But when I'm with you, I am fine. If you need someone to love. By Your Side is the third track on the EP, and this one is highly influenced by one of my idols, Mr. James Taylor. And you can probably guess which song, but there's lyrical sort of references in sort of I'll Come Running and On the Darkest Night, those sort of lines. And there's also tiny little musical references in there. But overall, this song is a song about commitment, friendship, and that overarching theme of being there for someone. It is a very simple song, but I feel that's one of the reasons that it succeeds in the sort of expectations and goals that I had for it when I was creating it. This song is also where I get to show you my virtuosic playing of the triangle. I think my favourite part of this song is the bridge, because it's quite different to A, the rest of the song, and B, the rest of the EP. It's sort of the only point where we move from an organic sort of sound to a slightly less organic sound. We've got the vocals going through distortion and like a rotary speaker. I really like that section, and particularly the toms out left and right. They sound really good, even if I do say so myself.
And when your heart is under 1,000 stones and you're struggling just to breathe, and when
the fourth and final song of at least the standard version of the EP is called Still on My Mind, which is an interesting song lyrically because it's a message for one person, but it's told to another person. It's also the only song which has piano on it. In many ways, it's about this delayed gratification. It's for so much of the song, we've just got piano and vocals, and then we sort of get a little taste for the drums and the bass guitar, and then boom, we are into this massive final chorus. It's got banjos. I think it's got like a dozen backing vocals. It's got a heap of electric guitars. There's very few instruments I own that aren't in there, to be honest. And I think that really is one of the most glorious moments of the EP. The song builds up, and finally, after that sort of hold off at the end of the bridge, it's boom into that final chorus. So I think a lot of people are gonna enjoy that final chorus. I hope, at least. Let me know if you do enjoy it. That'd be nice.
that I can't seem to let go, I can't seem to find home, 'cause she is still.
So next up, I want to thank a handful of collaborators who helped me to bring this EP into reality. And in no particular order, that's Chris Milliken, who did a fantastic job with the drums on every single song. Couldn't be happier with how they sound. And I really, really like Chris's drumming because he's also a songwriter. He plays guitar, he sings, and he has very, very beautiful compositions. And I think because of that, he really gets how to connect the drums and percussion with a song, particularly in like a singer-songwriter style. So really, really happy with the drums. Next would be Mr. Matt Crawford, filling out the beautiful low end all over the EP. Yeah, I mean, it's just glorious bass playing from start to finish, really. Next up is Teagan Simpson, a name you may be a little bit familiar with. Teagan did the backing vocals for pretty much all of the songs on the EP and extended sort of version of the EP. And Teagan's voice complements mine quite well sonically, just because of, where the different frequencies are. She's got a very airy voice. I'm sort of with the male vocal, it just sits really, really nicely. And she did a handful of really nice sort of improvised parts, particularly the one I'm thinking of is in the final chorus of Mahogany Eyes. So keep an eye out, an ear out for that, because it does sound really, really nice. If you haven't already listened to the EP that I produced with Teagan, you can listen to it at song.link/TS Water. I'll have that somewhere around here. The next person I need to thank is Mr. Nate Kelm. So I mentioned earlier about how Nate and I met, but Nate did a fantastic job on the violins for both Mahogany Eyes and Still on My Mind, someone's mind. And he also has done a handful of violins for a couple of other things that I've worked on, as well as Teagan's new music. I won't say much more than that. And also another EP by Zoey Connie, who I also need to thank because she did the backing vocals on one of the songs which is on the deluxe version of this EP. So yeah, getting back to Nate, thanks Nate. It was an awesome job that you did, and we're getting pretty good at international collaboration. Nate is in America, so lots of emails there. Next up is Bree Rigney. Bree did a fantastic job of shooting the album artwork, which in my humble opinion looks incredible. Bree also took a handful of the live shots that are on my website and all that kind of thing. Thank you, because it looks fantastic. And, I think a good looking album cover makes all the difference. I also need to thank Haydn Martin, who gave me a bit of encouragement and also a lot of feedback on my songs, the mixes, the masters, all that kind of thing. Gave me a little bit of extra confidence. So thank you very much for that. And the last person that I can think of off the top of my head to thank is Jacob Ingram, who did a fantastic job recording the stereo dueling electric guitars at the end of Still on My Mind. So thank you very much for that. And there is a plethora of other people who deserve thank you for this, whether they've engaged with the work directly or indirectly, but thank you very much. Probably if you're watching this, that's probably you, to be honest. So thank you, and I probably need to thank my mum and dad, because they're very supportive of my music.
And on the darkest night, I swear I'll be.
So the last section of this video, I wanted to have a bit of a chat about the instruments that I used on this EP. So first up is the most important instrument, which is the acoustic guitar. This is Scarlett. She's a 0015M from Martin. And to be honest, she's my favorite guitar in the whole wide world. I love the way she sounds, I love the way she feels to play, and I just feel very inspired every single time that I play her. There's really beautiful, I think they're abalone inlays on the fretboard. So yeah, I just love this guitar. And then I also have my Mexican Martin, whose name is Jasmine. I think it's a GP CPA 5. It's a very attractive name. And I think it's like a Sitka spruce top, laminate back and sides. The reason I like using this guitar in recording is because it's kind of the opposite sonic footprint of the previous Martin. The previous Martin, it's very warm and mid-range, sort of heavy, but in a very pleasant way. Whereas this guitar, it's got very, very much the sort of sparkling highs and deep lows. So, for example, the fingerpick sections in Mahogany Eyes, I actually recorded the left and right channels with each of these guitars. So one of them on the left and one of them on the right. So this guitar is a very, very useful guitar, and I quite like it. Next up is Nina. Nina is a Mexican Telecaster. I've done a little bit of modifying with her. I've installed a Wilkinson brass saddle bridge, but she is looking a little worse for wear, a couple of screws missing, but she sounds awesome. Nina was on, I think, the guitar solo in Drown and a lot of the acoustic guitars in Mahogany Eyes. And now we have one of my most prized possessions. This is Beverly. Beverly is a Gibson custom shop, 1956 reissue, gold top, P90s, all made to the original spec, lovely thick neck. It's actually a bit of a funny story how I got Beverly. So I'm very lucky. Beverly was actually a 21st birthday present from all of my family. And I really wanted a gold top Les Paul with P90s, and either it had a Bigsby system or I was going to fit one. And so I searched and searched, and there was a couple that came up sort of secondhand, but I just wasn't that taken by them. And then I saw one pop up down in Melbourne. And so I thought, well, I'm going to have to get down to Melbourne to get it. And it was right at the end of a uni semester, so I didn't have much free time. I ended up contacting the guy. He agreed to hold it for about a week once I put a deposit down on it. I flew down to Melbourne, bought the guitar off him, slept overnight, got up, went back to the airport, bought it an extra seat, and had it on the plane next to me on the way home so that it wouldn't possibly get damaged by anything, because that wasn't happening to my new guitar. And then I installed the Bigsby on it, which is a lot of fun. And yeah, it's just an incredible, incredible guitar. I also have a banjo, and this one is really, really useful for adding a bit of a different texture in. When you don't want to just add another guitar part in, you can go for the banjo, because it really does stick out in a song. I think it's in Still on My Mind and Mahogany Eyes, possibly. But yeah, really cool option to have. And to round off this list, I'd like to introduce you to Anastasia, who I've had for a very, very long time. Anastasia is an Epiphone Les Paul / signature. At the moment, she's got acoustic guitar strings on. I know that's really weird. I think I just really needed some humbuckers one day and I didn't have any electric guitar strings, so I just slapped them on. But it does mean that it's got a very bitey sound to it, which really complements the P90s in the other Les Paul quite well, and of course the single coils in the Telecaster. I also have an old Yamaha guitar, which I've put into Nashville tuning. I found this really useful to add an extra dimension to the final choruses of Mahogany Eyes and Still on My Mind. So that just about wraps up this video, but the only question left is, where can you hear this EP? So there's two versions of the EP. There's the standard 4-song version, which is available on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, Deezer, Tidal, everywhere like that. And then there's a deluxe version, which is available only on Bandcamp. Now, the reason that I've done this is that streaming from Spotify and Apple, even iTunes, they all take quite a large cut of that money. So it doesn't really support me and the thousands and thousands of dollars that I poured into, building up this studio that I'm in, the instruments, the work that I've done on the EP. So I wanted to offer a different way for people to buy the EP, so that it is able to support me a bit more. So on the deluxe edition, you will get 5 additional songs. 2 of them are singles that I'm going to release sometime next year, but I've given you early mixes to them. Those songs are Reaching Out and Find a Lover, and they sound a little bit like this.
Sometimes you're reaching out and all you find is doubt. 'Cause I'm gonna find a lover I know always makes me feel safe in her arms, or I can hear.
The other 3 songs are demos of Drown, Mahogany Eyes and Still on My Mind, so you can hear the early versions of these songs. I think with songs like Still on My Mind, there's actually slightly different melodies and definitely a few different lyrics in that version, so you might find that interesting. The link to the deluxe Bandcamp version of the EP is here and also in the description box. And if you'd like to stream or buy the song on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, all that kind of thing, the link is song.link/mahogany. And that finishes up this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy the EP. See ya.
But when I'm with you, I am fine. If you need someone to love, darling, you call me. Lay your head on my your worries be. You're amused to my days, and you know that I'll wait. And then when I need someone to love, darling, I'll have you, and you'll have me.
Still going.